Talk about power laws. What do you mean by power laws and how do they apply to decision making?
Yeah, so we have really evolved as humans to think linearly. You walk 30 steps, you're now 30 steps away. But most variables and relationships in life do not scale linearly. And so there's really three main power laws that you have to worry about. One is exponential growth. I think a lot of people are familiar with this with compound interest, but oftentimes it can still catch us by surprise. So one of the examples I talked to in the book is a magic penny. If you find a magic penny that doubles every day after 31 days, how much do you think you would have?
Yeah, I've heard this before. Like my gut would be like a few $100s, but it's some astronomical number. What's the actual answer?
It is. It's $10 million.
Unbelievable.
Which is unbelievable. You're familiar with exponential growth, and yet it's something that just doesn't come naturally to us. So that's one power law. Another is law of diminishing return. I think most people are familiar. New year, you get into the gym, you start doing the same workout, rapid progress, and then it starts to taper off. And then the third is long tail power laws. This is why, a few videos on Netflix really drive all the views on the platform. Same thing with companies, why Google and maybe a few other companies really pull in the bulk of the revenue on the internet. So really it's about understanding when a power law is in play. And one of the best ways to do that is a tool that goes back thousands of years, just graphing the data. If you can just graph the data, it almost always just pops out to you whether there's a power law at play and which one it is. For us as fighter pilots, it's one that stands out to me is when we have to eject. If we have to eject from aircraft, we have a rocket-powered seat, then we have a bunch of stuff in the checklist to do to make sure that we eject safely. But the number one thing to do is obvious. It's just to slow down. And that's because the force on our body scales to the square of our speed. And so if you stick your hand out going down the highway, going 80 miles an hour at Mach 1.6, it's 300 times. So about 1,000 miles an hour. It's 300 times that force, which is much more than you would expect it to be. So it'd be ejecting into a brick wall of air. So Maverick ejecting at Mach 10, he'd be just a bunch of jelly. So for us, slowing down is the most important thing because that wind resistance adheres to a power law. Have you ever had to eject? Knock on wood, fortunately not. I have a lot of friends that have. It's a very violent thing. It's about 20 to 30 Gs. Most people break some part of their body, and most pilots are 2 inches shorter for at least a reasonable amount of time for a couple of weeks after ejecting because of that compression of their spine.